Hello everyone and welcome to the NOS Library's workshop videos, Get It Right. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Gadigal and Wongal people of the Eora Nation, and to pay my deepest respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging. When we talk about finding your voice, what we often mean is finding a unique way of expressing something in writing. There are many ways to have your voice come through in writing. This can be in the story you tell or the way you describe a scene or character. Maybe it's even in the dialogue. Finding your voice as a writer can take years and even decades. These next few exercises are to focus and help you start to build and mold your own voice. This first exercise is called Mimic, and it's to help you start to see how we can describe scenes, different ways and methods that are used to create atmosphere or tension, and how you might start using it in your own writing and express it in your own way. For this first step, I want you to think of a very mundane scene. This can be anything from you going out to collect the mail to you going and making yourself a cup of tea. The thing to focus on when you write it is you want it as plain and mundane as possible. You don't want any adjectives or any kind of descriptive language. You're not trying to create atmosphere. You're just trying to tell as factually a way as possible what happens in a scene. Here's one that I've prepared earlier. I opened the door to my house and walked inside, locking it behind me. I walked through the living room and into the kitchen. I opened my cupboards and pulled out the things I need to make a sandwich. As I turned the kettle on to make a cup of coffee, the power shorted out. So you can see that this is a very bland and boring story. There's no flavor to the language. There's no extra atmosphere or emphasis on any of the activities. It is simply a factual telling of a scene. So pause the video for a few minutes and write a scene in as boring a way as possible. Now that we have a scene, I would like you to select a genre that you like the most. This could be fantasy, crime, horror, romance, whatever you like. But just pick one or two and rewrite the scene as if you were telling that story in that genre. Here's an example of how I would change the language from my scene. The keys jangled as I unlocked the door, the old latches and locks groaning in rust. I stepped inside and closed the door, making sure to lock it behind me. By giving the same scene just a little bit of description, I've been able to increase slightly the tension or the emotion. It feels like there's something after the character, or that he's on the run from something. There is fear. I chose a horror genre. You can pick whatever genre you like, and you can do it multiple times as well. But pause the video and rewrite your scene using as descriptive language as possible for your appropriate genre. For the final activity in Mimic, I would like you to think about a character that is experiencing the scene. Now, if you have a character in mind, this is a good opportunity for you to write through their eyes, to describe the world the way they would describe it. If you don't have a character in mind, pick one. There are plenty to choose from. You could choose James Bond or Dora the Explorer, whichever you like. But choose a character and tell the scene from their perspective. Here's an example. For my one, I picked Yoda. Hungry I was, need food I did, end thirst by making tea I thought, expect not the outing of power did I, no. The main point of this exercise is to have fun. Be a bit silly. Do what you need to do to change the story, in the same way that a photograph would look very different to an impressionist version. we're still looking at the same thing, but through a different lens, a different character, a different atmosphere. By playing around with it, we start to forge our own voice whenever we describe anything. So let's pause and take a few minutes to rewrite your scene in a new character's perspective. We've now taken a look at how we can describe scenes in different ways. But what about objects? What about ideas? This next exercise is called Explain It to an Alien. In this exercise, you're going to choose three things. The first thing you're going to pick will be an object, a mundane, physical, real-world object. It could be a book, or a table, or a chair, shirt, whatever it is, whatever you see. The second is going to be an action or process connected to those things. So if it's book, it might be read, or if it's table, it might be meet. The third thing is a larger idea or concept, which both the thing and the process fit into. So if I pick table and meet, my concept might be community. You can start this either with your concept first and work backwards, or with the physical object and move up to the concept. The important thing is to know the connections. Once you have your physical object, your action and process, and your concept, I would like you to try and describe it to an alien, to a creature that has no concept of what these things are. Think about how you would describe something that's physical versus how you would describe an idea. Try and change your terms. Describe the table like an idea and the community like a physical and real thing. The approach we take to each thing we describe will present a unique chance and opportunity to express ourselves. The more we can express ourselves with even the simplest of objects, the more your voice is going to show through in your writing. So pause the video for a few minutes and explore the objects, concepts, and actions that you have in different ways. For this final exercise, we're going to focus on the connection between things and how to turn those connections into unique turns of phrases. We're using a very simple language tool, the analogy. An analogy is a simple tool that we can use to show similarity, connections, and have unique turns of phrases. Perhaps one of the most popular ones comes from Forrest Gump. Life is like a box of chocolates. You'll never know what you're going to get. The three parts of it are life, a box of chocolates. The connection is the mystery. We can come up with similar turns of phrases using our own unique connections. Using the words from the previous activity, your physical object, your action and process, or your concept, pick one of them and think about the emotion and feeling you get from them. Once you have that, think about another object, process, or concept that gives you a similar feeling. The bigger the diversity of the objects you choose creates a stronger and more interesting connection. Just like with life, to summarize it down into a small and simple thing like a box of chocolates has its own certain charm. So pause the video for the next few minutes and think about two things and the connection between them. You can do this at random as well. Think of random things and then try and connect them. Think of where the connections are. If I say words like baseball bat or ukulele, what's the connection? Now that we have a few words and connections, we want to play with the sentences that we can put them in until we arrive at something that's pleasurable both to say and to hear. For this, you can look back at the previous video of Say It Again. Take a sentence and write it in as many different variations as possible. If you're not sure how this would work, think about how you would phrase the box of chocolates analogy differently. Perhaps a box of chocolates is like life. Or mystery is in a box of chocolates and life. Keep playing with the way the sentence is structured until you arrive at one that has the strongest and most pleasurable sound to it. Using these 3 exercises, and by maintaining a regular writing habit, you'll soon be expressing your own self in your own words, with your own voice. So happy writing, and best of luck, and I'll see you next time.